Do you ever wonder why you feel so alone even though you're married? Do you ever ask yourself the question, is it normal to feel lonely in a Christian marriage? Do you ever find yourself almost shrinking back or going to protect your heart out of fear that this loneliness is going to continue to cause you more and more pain? Maybe you're in a season of life where you found this loneliness seeping out of your relationships and actually affecting other areas of your life, such as your health, your sleep, the way that you show up in your home or your work. So many things that this relational piece can affect. And today we are going to talk about that. I am going to speak about my own experience and also give you guys some tangible takeaways of how you can kill this loneliness and restore connection into your marriage and your life in general. Welcome to the United Christian Marriage Podcast, where we help you build a healthy, united marriage that impacts your family now and for generations to come. If your marriage feels disconnected or like you're the only one trying and he just doesn't get it, then you're in the right place. I'm Micaiah, a Christian marriage coach, trauma-informed mentor, and wife of a blue-collar man. I've been in the trenches too, and I've helped women make small but powerful shifts in their marriage daily because it's really those little things that make the biggest difference. And I'm here to help you do the same, without the shame, without fluff, and always with Jesus at the center. On this podcast, we talk about biblical truths that you can actually apply to your marriage. We talk about how to communicate effectively and what it takes to create a deeply connected marriage, even if right now you're in a really hard place. I got pregnant at 17, married at 18, and had to build a life and marriage I never saw modeled. Jesus was all I had, and those early years, they were rough. Diapers, emotional outbursts, and total communication breakdowns. But if we can do it, you can too. So grab your coffee or tea and a notebook, and let's dive into today's episode. Okay, so this topic is on my heart because not only have I experienced this on some intense moments of my life, not just in marriage, but just loneliness in lots of areas, but I also am constantly hearing people saying these things, whether it's to me or on Facebook or just like I hear it through someone else. People are saying that they feel lonely in their marriage. There's this emotional loneliness often that the women feel a little more heavily than the men. A lot of people are saying that their marriage is disconnected. A lot of Christian wives are feeling alone right now, and I'm hearing the phrase lonely but married like a lot. And so I knew that this was an episode that was so needed, and I think we really are in a season or a era, I guess, where loneliness is just rampant. We are going to our phones. We are so busy, right? That like we feel like all we have time is to connect on our phones and then maybe hang out with our family if we have time for that. But like, what happened to community? What happened to friendships? What happened to like gatherings, right? And the Lord has kind of taken the desire to party out of my heart, but I still desire to have fun, right? But in a more wholesome way. I still desire to gather with people, but in a way that doesn't involve lots of drinking and getting rowdy and inappropriate. And as a young woman who's also married and has those values, I can say that it can be a little difficult just to feel like there's an easy way to have a social life because all the stuff that's like quick and easy, like if I was able to go get a babysitter and just go out, it's a little more on the rowdy side. It's a little more not as conservative as I personally would feel comfortable with. So it's something that I'd say I haven't solved 100%. So I'm not coming to you as an expert, but I'm just coming to you with like what has helped me, what the Lord has showed me, and what I've been learning in this season, like academically through like research of, I'm a relationship coach. So I've been doing some research into the importance of relationships and, loneliness and how that can actually affect us in lots of ways. So there's kind of two sides of this. Well, three really. There's like my personal experience, there is this academic side of what I've been learning, and then there's also the spiritual side of what I feel like the Lord has shown me through His Word and through being poured into by my church and other mentors in my life. So I'm excited to walk through this with you guys, and I just do want to remind you that if you guys are experiencing loneliness, please book one of those last free calls. I believe I have four or five left before the free link shuts off. So grab one of those, and even if it's just to curb some of that loneliness, I would love to talk with you, see if there's anything I can do to help. But it's not really just me sitting there giving you advice. I really do try to build a connection with you because that's so important. And I don't think there's really a point in me getting on a Zoom with you and then letting you talk for 10 minutes and then just like taking over the floor the rest of the time and preaching at you. Because if you wanted to be preached at, you can listen to the podcast or go to a Sunday sermon at church. So I like to keep it more conversational. So, all right, guys. If that does hit home and you're ready to reconnect with your spouse or just with other Christians, then please book that coaching call. And first, before we even dive into the tips, I also wanted to talk to you about what got me into this topic besides seeing the need for it, like from my own life perspective. So I was actually just talking to a new friend about this, and I have always struggled with making friends from a young age. For those of you who haven't heard my testimony, it's a long one, but like the key points early on was when I was 5, I was taken out of my home and put into foster care for a couple years. My parents had substance abuse issues and there was a lot there. And then me and my sister went through foster care together for about 2 years, and then we were adopted back into our family by my biological father's ex-wife. So not our biological mother, but the woman that he was married to before he met my mom and got her pregnant. So we kind of like, that was intense, as you would imagine, at 5 years old. But since I was the oldest, I felt like a lot of pressure going in to like take care of my sister and like be on the lookout and be alert. And, I was only 5, so there's only so much I could do. But for some reason, I had this pressure placed upon me. And I don't know if it was external, if like someone word for word said like, hey, look after your sister, or be strong, you're going to get through this. I don't know if it was like that, like it was externally said to me and I internalized it, or if it was just something that I took on because maybe I saw like in the movies, oh, the older sister protects the younger siblings or whatever, I'm not sure what it was. But I went through it with this idea that like I had to be this brute, like I had to just be strong. I had to get through it. I had to protect her. And that's kind of when I think this protector was born inside of me, and I've carried that around for so long. And because that was there, it was taking up so much room in me that I really didn't have room to be protected. Like there wasn't room for me to accept protection, not from God, not from external parent figures. I was just very overly independent, and I shut people out. And I think I was accidentally good at hiding that I had shut people out. And then I went into school, and I had matured so quickly because of everything that I had been through, that, I was dealing with traumas, but also like with this additional maturity piece. And I think just all of that combined, along with the idea that I had in my head already that like I wasn't good enough, all of those things together made it feel impossible to make friends. And it stayed that way even into my adult life. I really struggled, and I didn't know it for most of the time. Probably not until my later teen years did I actually realize that like, okay, I'm carrying around this subconscious belief that there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or people won't like me, they won't accept me. And I think it all went back to the fact that when I was around age 10, I think, I went through a depression, and I didn't know how to vocalize it yet, but internally I was thinking there was something wrong with me, and that's why my parents didn't get sober. That's why they didn't fight harder to keep us. That's why they didn't do the hard work to make sure we could stay with them. And I don't think I ever spoke those words out loud to anyone until I was an adult. Like, I don't think that I actually realized that's what was causing my issues. I just had those thoughts and immediately grasped onto them as if they were true because they were what was there, right? And so at that point, I didn't know how to question my thoughts. I didn't know how to zoom out and see, like, what are the other options here? And so while I would have like truths that I would try to argue against the lies, they were kind of weak, and it wasn't strategic, right? Like, there wasn't a plan to change my thoughts. I also feel like maybe there was some shame. It was either shame or just truly ignorance, because looking back, I'm like, I really should have spoken those words to someone and shared that, and that probably would have took some of the pressure off of me, but I didn't know how to do that, or I was ashamed to do it. I didn't know how to open up to people. It was like a fear response, right? And there's lots of reasons for that. I won't get too deep into that, the brain side of it, because we've done that in other episodes, and we go really deep in the curriculum if you want to jump into my coaching program. But yeah, so that led to a lot of issues accepting help, a lot of issues asking for help, feeling like I need to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders, and going into marriage and having a husband who is also naturally a provider. We banged heads a little bit, but in the end, it turned out really good for me, because I learned how to slowly relinquish those roles to him. I learned to slowly trust him. And as I've grown with that with my husband, I've also been walking on this parallel journey that's like interconnected, which is my journey of learning to trust God. Because if you would have asked me if I trusted God, I would have told you yes, because that's the right answer, right? And I wanted it to be true, but I realized it really wasn't true in the way that I was showing up. And so you're probably asking yourself, what does this have to do with loneliness in marriage or emotional loneliness, any of those things? And it does 100%, because trust is a huge part of whether you feel lonely or not. And you can't trust others if you don't even trust your creator, like the God who loves you with a love so full, so engulfing, that he sent his son to die for you. He wants you with him. He wants to be with you always. He wants to walk with you in all that you do. And that's why he gave you his Holy Spirit if you have accepted it into your heart. And so he loves you so much. He cares for you. He is 100% good. If you cannot trust him, you cannot trust anyone else, because everyone else is wicked. They're dirt, they're scum, they're dirty rags in comparison. And he loves us anyways, right? I'm not saying like to look down on other people, but I'm saying, like, compared to God, we are nothing. And so if you can't trust God, then you're really going to struggle with this loneliness continually. And so that's why in my coaching and in my coaching program, the group program, we do so much work with like nervous system and diving deeper into untangling those thoughts, the things that I didn't know how to say yet as a teenager and as a kid. And the reason I can now is because I've done that work of untangling. I've done the coaching, the self-coaching, learning to journal and take things to prayer. And it's a balance of learning and digesting and then putting into practice and then creating. And then it's like this cycle, and we go back and repeat and repeat. And if that goes out of balance and you're doing a lot more consuming and no creating, or if you're doing a lot of learning but you're not putting anything into practice practically in your life, then that's when these issues can kind of show up as well. So that's multi-layered. I'm going to stop going off on that rabbit trail so we can get back to the episode. I did just want to talk really quick about why relationships matter, why connection with others matters from a scholarship point. So, research shows that good relationships keep us happier and healthier, mentally and physically. So, it's not just one or the other, it is really a whole body effect that relationships can have for good or for bad. A Harvard study by Robert Waldinger shows that social connections are really good for us, and loneliness can actually kill us. They did a study on all these men, and I think they were all men. Anyways, it was all these people who were studied for almost their whole life. It was like a very large chunk of their life. And from that study, they learned that the people who had less fulfilling relationships, the people who felt lonely, they actually died earlier than the people who felt fulfilled in their relationships, who had a community, who had friends. So it's not the number of friends that you have, or even whether you're in a committed relationship like marriage or not. It's actually the quality of those close relationships that matter. And so from that, we learned that good relationships don't just protect our bodies, which that's amazing, but they also protect our brains. And then we also know that like being socially connected and quote unquote part of the group is a basic survival need that goes all the way back to our ancestors and from the beginning of time, right? Like you look at Adam and Eve, and God immediately wanted them to reproduce, to create a community. And yes, there's the aspect of like God wanted more humans. He wanted us to reproduce. He wanted to be in community with more of us, to love more of us. But also I think he knew he made us to need that community, right? Like that was something he programmed in us. And neurologically speaking, we need to know that we belong to a group. It helps us to feel safe and valued. And we are actually hardwired by God for connection with other humans. It is part of our biology. So to know that like this is completely normal, that you have this need, and if it's not being met, you'll feel lonely. That's so normal. That's how God made us. And there's a lot more effects happening from loneliness than we maybe realize. So it's really powerful to learn to grow in relationship with the Lord, with your spouse, and then also with outside sources like your church community or friends or other family members. So actually another study showed, or maybe it was the same study. Anyways, I believe it's from the book Love 2.0 by Barbara Fredrickson. But they showed that the lack of love is more damaging to your health than smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol excessively or being obese. So love literally actually makes you healthier, and a lack of love compromises your immunity and your health. So feeling isolated or disconnected to others does more bodily damage than actual isolation. Meaning, it doesn't mean are you like physically alone in a cave? Because if you were physically alone in a cave, but you felt like super connected to God, and like you felt like you had this huge support team, and like he gave you peace, that would actually be more healthy for you than to live this full life where you're constantly surrounded by people, but you feel isolated, you feel disconnected, you feel alone. So this suggests that the painful emotions that drive the bodily system are what turns into those dire health outcomes. So it's more about how you feel connected or feel alone versus feeling in community than it is actually being surrounded by people or not surrounded by people. Hopefully that makes sense. So I thought that was really interesting. I wanted to share that. Now let's get into some practical tips, right? Like actually, before we move on, I wanted to share a Bible verse. If you go and look up Genesis 2:18, it actually reaffirms everything I'm saying to you right now. God says it is not good for man to be alone, so he created a woman, right? And that is how community started, and then it grew from there. So it is a real need. It's not a weakness, and there's nothing wrong with you. Now, just real quick, wrap this up. So if you're taking notes, make sure you journal these down. So number one of reconnecting is actually to journal your needs. This helps you realize what's missing, what you're actually needing, what you're actually feeling, get that clarity of your own heart and your own positioning, your own accountability before you ever go and like talk to your spouse about this or talk to someone else, because we don't want to come off critical or accusatory or blaming. So just actually journal on, what do I want him to see in me? Like, how am I wanting to be seen by my husband? How do I want him to be treating me that would make me feel connected to him potentially? And I want you to journal on what thoughts, right? Because it goes back to if we feel connected, not if we're actually around people. So what thoughts are leading you to feel disconnected from your husband? And I want you to journal on that. And then number two, pray for courage to be vulnerable, because connection actually starts with vulnerability. So ask God to come into your heart, come into your mind. He is the God who created you. He can rewire, he can change all these things. He can give you a new heart, right? He replaces the heart of stone with a heart of flesh. And so ask God to remove the walls of fear, pride, or apathy. Apathy literally kills. And yet it's running rampant because people are traumatized. People are hurting. People are sick of being rejected. People don't have the community that used to be so normal. And so they put up these walls of apathy to protect their heart. But to have that connection, you actually have to remove those and get very vulnerable. And then number three, reconnect through shared meaning. So this could be telling stories about like good times, quote unquote, or it could be just the good moments from your day, practicing gratitude, maybe watching an old wedding video, reading old letters, visiting a place that like reminds you of a good date or a good moment in your marriage. Or it could just be dreaming, right? It could be future focused. And then of course we want to find moments to be just very present as well. Like, even if it's saying stuff that feels really awkward and obvious, but like, you are wearing a red dress, I love it, you know? Like, it almost feels awkward to be that descriptive or like robot-y, but it's like making sure you're there in the moment, and that person will see like, oh, you're not just giving me a blanket, what's the word I'm looking for? A blanket compliment just to like, for, you know, good manners or whatever, but like you're actually paying attention to me. And so it's those types of things of like taking time to reminisce, taking time to be in the present. Just 10 minutes a day being in the here and now can actually physically add gray matter to your brain, which can emotionally regulate you and help with so many things mentally. So I encourage you to definitely spend time in the present, and then spend time dreaming with your husband and on your own. So a reflection prompt for you today is, what are the needs that you haven't felt safe enough to express, or maybe haven't processed enough to get out? And what would it look like to believe that God cares about those places of longing? Right? I just want to give you permission to know it's not selfish to dream, and you can dream. Always take it back to God. Always submit to his will in the end. But it's okay to dream. It's okay to want more connection. We are wired that way. So if emotional loneliness has become your new normal and you want a news story, I'd love to help. You can book a free coaching call and we can continue that with one-on-one calls, or you can check out the Deeply Connected Marriage Coaching Program. The link to apply is in the show notes. You can know you're not alone and it's not too late. And in other notes, the group is just a perfect place to realize you're not alone. And yeah, sorry if you can hear my kids. They were fine, but as I'm closing, they decided they didn't want to be alone anymore either. So God sees the loneliness. He's here to the broken heart. He's near to the brokenhearted, and he isn't just watching from afar. He wants to help you rebuild connection in your marriage, one intentional step at a time. So I'm praying for your heart today. You are not alone. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got so much value out of it. And if you loved this episode, could you do me a quick favor and click 5 stars and leave me a review? It would do wonders for spreading the podcast out to other people who need it, and it only takes a few seconds. If you have an additional few seconds, why don't you go ahead and screenshot the episode and share it to your stories so we can spread the message and get more families healed. Thank you, and until next time, I will be praying for you, and I hope you have a blessed day. Bye.